Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Renita and I am living with breast cancer. I also want to just let you know that as you're watching my videos that I do have some notes in front of me, so you may see me look down. Alright, so last time I talked with you all, it was me initially receiving the first phone call to say that I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So now this part 2 of the story is sharing my prognosis markers information. I had several doctor visits during this time frame, and the tests that were ordered during this time frame. So the first thing I want to let you all know is that I did take some time off from work. So while I was off, my nurse navigator, she did call me and she provided me with my prognosis markers. So my prognosis markers were ER positive, which is estrogen, PR positive, which is progesterone, and HER2 negative. And she told me that they were favorable. And if you don't know what estrogen is kind of like, it's a female hormone, and basically it's responsible for it's essential for reproduction and development of sex characteristics. So that would be like, in my example, breast. So the other one is progesterone, which is another female hormone produced in the ovaries during your menstrual cycle. And this is also, it also prepares the uterus for pregnancy. And if you were pregnant, it would also get the breast ready for milk. HER2 is a protein identified in breast cancer, which indicates the aggressiveness of the cancer, or what stage you could possibly be at. So when she told me that my prognosis markers were favorable, what that meant was that I would end up taking a pill more than likely, and she wouldn't give me anything definitive until she officially set me an appointment up with an oncologist. But that meant that I will probably take a hormone therapy pill for the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know all of that information yet, so I have to let the doctor to help me with that one. But in the meantime, she did initially get a appointment scheduled with the surgeon, and that surgeon would be the surgeon who would be responsible for removing the cancer from my left breast. That appointment was actually scheduled on November 2nd. So on November 2nd, actually I went ahead and went to visit as a matter of fact, I have some footage on the way to the doctor. So I'm going to actually insert that footage like in here, so you can see it. It's nothing but me driving because I was so nervous going to that appointment that day, because I didn't know what to expect. So with me not knowing what to expect, I did record some footage, but I wasn't talking on it or anything. It's kind of just like, driving in the city. So I will insert that. But when I did go to meet the surgeon, he was a nice man. He kind of like, went over my pathology report from the breast center. And he kind of like told me that on my left breast, it was invasive. It was about a ½ inch, the tumor was. And he was like, it's a lot of calcifications around that breast. And he definitely was recommending a mastectomy of my left breast. I asked him if he could tell me what stage cancer I was at that point. And he told me, the oncologist determines a true stage, but he did tell me, based off the information that he did have, that it was a stage 2. He also told me in my lymph nodes, because when I did that initial visit over, well, the second visit at the breast center, they did the biopsy of my lymph nodes. I think I mentioned that in my previous video, but my lymph nodes were also affected with breast cancer. So due to my lymph nodes being positive, kind of like told me that I would definitely have to have chemotherapy, and told me that, you know, the true information about my final pathology report would, you know, that basically will come after surgery. He also advised me, which I was in it that same day, he was like, you know, so that we can get a better picture of your breast and make sure your right breast is okay as well, let's go ahead and get an MRI. So that very same day, my appointment, if I'm not mistaken, I believe my appointment was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, on November 2nd. And later that day, we were scheduled to go back to the hospital to have an MRI done at 9:30 at night. So the doctor ordered the MRI, and he was doing the MRI basically because he was recommending the mastectomy of my left breast, and he also was checking on my lymph nodes on my left arm, and he wanted to check the right breast to make sure nothing else was going on in my right breast. He also was telling me about reconstructive surgery, and reconstructive surgery is basically what you do with the plastic surgeon. So the plastic surgeon, he was telling me the next steps, that basically he would get an appointment scheduled for me because he does partner with someone, and that person, they kind of like work together. So the surgeon would go in and remove the cancer lymph nodes, and the plastic surgeon would come in behind him and do reconstructive breast surgery to make the breast look like the right breast. But that will be another, I'm gonna tell y'all about that in a second. In the meantime, that same night after I finished with the surgeon who was going to remove the cancer, he scheduled the MRI at the hospital at 9 p.m. I was so anxious, oh my God, but the great thing about that is the doctor gave me some anxiety pills because my nerves were all over the place. It's like if I had to talk to someone about what was going on, I would cry and tear up. But if I didn't talk about it, you know, like, you will be okay. Even though my mind was on what was going on with me, if I talked about it, it just, all this fear and emotion and all of this came out of me, and I just wanted to know a clean, you know, like a good diagnosis and like next steps for me. So, you know, so I can start looking at the positive end of the tunnel, and not focus so much on the negative. One thing I also forgot to mention to you all is that at the appointment that I had, it was actually at the hospital with the surgeon, and my nurse navigator, she actually came over and she brought me a book. And this book right here has been my saving grace because it has so much information in it. I also, anything I could possibly want to know about breast cancer is in that book. There's some things I actually have to go to, you know, I go online, I go to Susan Komen's website, I go to American Cancer Society's website. Those are like two of my favorite websites right now, but they're packed full of information. So whatever your question could possibly be, you could find it on that website. So my husband and I went to the appointment, you know, at the hospital just to get the MRI done. I've never had an MRI in my entire life, and if you don't already know, I'm 40, so 40 years old, never had an MRI. So, you know, they inject you with this liquid, and you go on this machine, it's making all this crazy noise, and you have to sit still. It's very interesting. I wasn't afraid, and I find out that I'm not claustrophobic either because, you know, you were in a tight space on this little, tiny. I don't even know how to get your body on that little tiny, like a bed-like thing, but it's very interesting. So they inject with this liquid and you do that test. And, you know, after that test, I had an appointment with, my first appointment with the oncologist. So my appointment with the oncologist was actually on November 6th. And at that appointment, you know, she kind of like gave me some of the information I already shared about the prognosis markers and telling me that I'll be taking hormone therapy for the next 5 to 10 years. She did confirm the stage of my cancer was stage 2. Again, final staging or definitive staging comes after your pathology report from when you have the surgery to have the cancer removed. She did discuss my MRI results with me, and basically what she said about my MRI results were that there was a lot of calcifications around, a lot of calcifications in my breast, and that could be a sign of pre-cancer, meaning although there was already one tumor that was identified as being cancerous, there was another area in my breast that was discovered on the MRI that looks like it may be another form of another tumor basically forming in my left breast. So you know, she was also telling me some of the information I shared, which, you know, basically I'm gonna have to get chemotherapy, I may need radiation, but my true treatment plan did not come until after the surgery. She scheduled a PET scan for me, and the PET scan is basically a scan of your entire body, just to make sure that there's cancer is no other place inside your body. And that was an interesting test to be ran, but I had to drink this liquid. They injected me with the solution, which I kind of think it's considered nuclear medicine, but I think it's like sugar, if I'm not mistaken. I wish I had researched that, but I'm almost certain it's sugar that they inject you with, some version of sugar. And basically that test was the worst because they consider you radioactive during that time period, and you know, don't recommend that you near kids after your test until that solution that they inject you with, it's kind of like went through your body. So great thing about my PET scan is that cancer was nowhere else in my body besides the area that was already identified. But she also scheduled a genetics test with me to see if the cancer that the breast cancer that I had, but this test was basically a blood test to determine whether or not if there was going to be a chance that later on in life that cancer from that, you know, from a left breast could, or maybe another cancer could actually form in my right breast. So that was going to be the decision I had to make, was to whether if I was going to have the mastectomy or of the left breast, or a bilateral mastectomy for both breasts being removed. So I had to make a decision, but this test would also help me make that decision based on the genetic markers from this test that I received back. In the meantime, went ahead and visited a plastic surgeon. He was kind of direct to the point. You know, he let me feel the different things, the different implants that they had in the office to see. I mean, it really much feels like a real breast, but he allowed me to do that and kind of like just went over the options and told me what he would do if I chose to have that left, you know, do the mastectomy on the left breast, and told me that he will put an expander in, and, you know, basically week over week you would get filled after your surgery and get filled to the size that you will want. So this expander would go behind the muscle, and he would expand that muscle out so it can hold the breast form. And then he also told me, you know, if I chose to do the left breast, what he would end up doing on my right breast was kind of like lifting it to make the left and the right be like twins, but not identical twins, so to speak. So that was the decision I had to make, and pretty much I was at this point waiting on that genetics test to come back. So I was waiting on that genetics test to come back, and you know, I had been praying for God to just, you know, guide me to make the right decision. And long story short, I ended up deciding. I decided on the bilateral mastectomy because I wanted my boobs to look similar, and I was also really afraid of having breast cancer reoccur, because I had been watching too much information or being online too much, and I've seen in which some women had already, and I don't know if the genetics test existed for them at that point, but they had a lumpectomy or mastectomy of one breast, and then later on in life, breast cancer reoccurred in that second breast, so they would have to go back through this again. And I did not want to go back through this again, but it was really strange how I felt like God revealed it to me on how I ended up coming to the decision. I actually came to the decision before the genetics test came back, because the genetic test took 2 weeks to come back. Now mind you, I saw her November 8th. We were going into the Thanksgiving holiday, and it didn't come back until I'm almost gonna say like November 26, 27, something like that. But that was a long time waiting. It was like, my daughter's about to graduate high school, and I don't want to be sick around the time, you know, she's going through that process. You know, I want to be able to, you know, help her celebrate and have a party and things like that. But I wanted to make a decision, but, you know, to make the best decision for me too and my family. So I didn't want to procrastinate. I know breast cancer is not considered an emergency, because if you don't know, cancer cells can be grown in your body for like, from my research, I think it's like 7 to 8 years before a tumor is even identified. So I haven't grown my body for several years, but I just wasn't aware of it. But it's not considered a true medical emergency. But I felt like I couldn't wait. I wanted to go ahead and just get this process started. So I ended up calling the surgeon's office, and I let him know that I had made a decision, and my decision was to do a bilateral mastectomy. And they did not give me a surgery date immediately, because they also had to consult the plastic surgeon as well. So I did get the surgery date, and my surgery date was on December, it was finally scheduled December 8th at, I can't even remember, it's either 3 or 3:30, but it was a late surgery, from 3 to 3:30. So I will give you, that's kind of like where I'm going to end this video today. I will give you, in the next video, I will share information about how the surgery went, you know, how some things before the surgery, how the surgery went, and how things are now leading up, you know, to present time. Please, you know, subscribe to my channel, like, share the video. Somebody else out there could be going through the same exact thing, not knowing where to start, and just needing more information about next steps with cancer. So maybe this could be helpful for them, or if you have any questions or comments, you know, you can put comments and I'll respond, just to help someone else who could be going through something similar. And I'll be more than happy to help you. Again, I'm Renita, and I'll see you in the next video.